Fastlane Founders and Legacy with Jason Barnard. Each week, Jason sits down with successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, and executives and get them to share how they mastered the delicate balance between rapid growth and enduring success in the business world. How can we quickly build a profitable business that stands the test of time and becomes our legacy? A legacy we're proud of. Fastlane Founders and Legacy with Jason Barnard.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Fastlane Founders and Legacy with me, Jason Barnard, and a quick hello, and we're good to go. Welcome to the show, Damon Lembi.
Well, Jason, I've been on quite a few podcasts, and I don't think I've ever been serenaded before. So yeah, I love it.
Super. And I'm going to love the topic today, the learn it all versus the know it all leader, helping people to lead better, delegate better, manage better. Hugely interesting topic for entrepreneurs, business leaders, and even kind of different people in management. I've learned a lot from a guy called Mad Singers, and I think I'm about to learn a lot more from you. But before we get into that, really quickly, I always show the brand cert or ChatGPT results for people. Today, I chose to show the brand cert. And what I found interesting here, I've marked in 3 green arrows, is number 1, you've written books. So Google's using the Google Books description, and that description is almost impossible to get rid of. So once you've written a book, you're stuck with the Google Books description that you submit. Number 2, you put a great piece of information in there, which is 1.8 million professionals. So when you're writing your description for your book, always put some really cool information, hopefully that won't go out of date. And the subtitle there on the left is author. And I find that it's really nice. But then once again, Google Books is dominating. Instead of saying you're an entrepreneur and a CEO, it's saying you're an author. How do you feel about that? Do you feel author is accurate, or would you rather be entrepreneur?
I'd rather be an entrepreneur or CEO than author. And I hope the 1.8 does go out of date because it keeps going up.
Very good point. Yeah, I mean, we do find a lot of our clients come to us and say, well, I'm tagged as an author, or somebody was an SEO professional. I'd much rather be seen as an entrepreneur. And we can switch that for them. That's part of what we do at CaliQ. But you said you actually use Google and ChatGPT to research guests for your podcasts. You also use it to research potential partners and clients?
100%. I use Google, ChatGPT, and like I mentioned to you before, Perplexity to go through and research potential guests, partners, and even YouTube, to be honest, to go through, because I mean, I think YouTube is a great search engine as well when you want to find out information or watch short clips on people.
Yeah, I think kind of a lot of us forget that we research people on Google, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, maybe even Alexa and Siri, and we don't realize that other people are doing it to us. So I didn't realize you'd been researching me yesterday, and you know way too much about me already. It's scary. Yeah. But let's talk about delegation. Describe to me the learn it all versus the know it all to kick off, so we know the difference.
Okay, so let's start off with the know it all. Okay, so the know it all, we all come across these people. They have all the answers. They're stuck in their ways. It's my way or the highway, especially, for a leader or a coach or whatever. And they're just not open to being adaptable and hearing diverse opinions. And on the flip side of that, what I talk about in my book, The Learn It All Leader, is a learn it all mentality. And there's really 5 traits, I believe, that make a great leader when it comes to becoming a learn it all. And those 5 traits are humility, curiosity, integrity. You think you don't have to tell people to lead with integrity, but you really do. Accountability and courage. Courage to get out of your comfort zone and make tough decisions. So really, a learn it all is somebody who's open, adaptable, and humble enough to say, look, I don't have all the answers, so I'm going to surround myself with people I can tap into who can help me get to where I want to go.
Right. And is that something you can learn? Because that list of 5, I can see myself in most of them, but I have always had the tendency of thinking I know how to do things better than other people. And it's something I've had to let go of. I've learned. Can you learn the whole lot?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think nobody's 100% learn it all. And I don't think anybody's 100% know it all. I think it kind of ebbs and flows. And like, for instance, as a parent, when it comes to bedtime for the kids, I'm a know-it-all. There's that's just the way it's going to be. And but from a work perspective, I think that you mentioned delegation earlier. I've become a lot better at that over the years. Running my business, Learn It, I have about 100 employees. But
Wow.
for a long time, all the decisions had to come through me, right? Like I wanted to be involved in everything. And even though I had a great team, I didn't trust people enough, really, I guess. And I thought I had all the answers. And it took me a while to realize, hey, if you really want to scale and grow, if you're a know-it-all as a leader, then Jason, you're just a bottleneck. You're the
Yeah.
bottleneck for everybody around you and can't get things done. So you have to be able to give people the autonomy and the space to take on tasks and responsibilities. And just,
Mm.
if there's failure, hey, great. Let's just learn from those mistakes, move on, and get better next time.
Right. You mentioned bottleneck. And that's something that struck me when I started to try to let go. And I mentioned to you earlier on, intellectually, I could understand that I had to let go and give work over to other people, not check everything they do, and trust them. But emotionally, I found that very difficult. And then one day, somebody on my team, Jean Marie, said to me, Jason, you're a bottleneck. I can't get my work through because you keep wanting to check it. We have to find a solution to you being the bottleneck, which we did. And it was really interesting that she had the courage to say that.
I was just going to tell you that. I said that shows that she has a trust in you, that she feels like she could come and speak honestly with you and give you feedback and not be reprimanded for it. So
Yeah.
that's great that you have people like that working for you. And I think that is so important when it comes to giving and receiving feedback. Great leaders know how to receive feedback in a way that they don't get defensive and people feel
Mm.
open to sharing their thoughts with them. And I love the fact that she called you out as a bottleneck, because it's something
Yeah.
that I think a lot of business leaders struggle with.
Yeah, well, I had another example of somebody else on the team, Marianne, who called me out for not being tough enough. She said, you're too nice. You keep saying to everybody, it's okay, it's fine, it doesn't matter. You made a mistake. We can figure out about it. And obviously, you don't get on somebody's case about the mistake they've made, but certainly saying, okay, that happened, not good. What do we do to fix it is much better than let's not worry about it at all.
How did it make you feel when she said she didn't think you were tough enough?
It made me feel like I wasn't doing my job, actually. And it made me laugh because she's such a lovely person and she said in a very kind way. But when somebody on your team asks you to be tougher with the team, I found that funny and strange.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually experienced that too in the past, where people have told me, "Hey, I don't think you're tough enough," and inside I get a little defensive, but I try not to show it, right? Because
Oh,
I
right.
want
Okay.
I want to share. I want to share, like, look at these tough calls or these decisions that I have made in the past,
Mm,
and but no, I think it's always good information to get. Any data you can get and feedback as far as people perceive you to be is important. And it goes back to that learn it all mentality, because whether or not you want to act on it, at least you have this information that you can do something with.
right. And for me, Learn It All was just curiosity, but you've actually got 5, but curiosity was one of them, wasn't it?
I think that great leaders, great coaches, great parents, it's all about curiosity. I think curiosity is the thread that weaves through everything.
Mm,
Being curious, like, how can we do something different and better? And especially these days with AI, I look at it now and saying, look, instead of how can we do this better at work, how can we do this better leveraging AI? Is there a way that we can get curious and do it? And as far as the other 4, yeah, I mean, humility is super important. Like we mentioned,
mm,
you can't have all the answers, and I think your team respects you if you say, look, I don't have all the
yeah.
answers, but I've got this great team around me. Tap into them. Because Jason, think about it. If you hire these people to come work for you, right, and they're talented people, why do you want to put them in a box and just say and do command and control? If you want them to stay, grow, and your company to get better, you got to give them the autonomy, invest in learning with them, and allow them to make mistakes. Um, Otherwise, you're not going to grow and you're going to lose great talent.
Right. So can we name the 5 again? Because I can remember curiosity and humility.
And then there's
Courage was
integrity.
another one. Oh,
Yeah. So let's go with courage. So what I mean by courage is having the courage to get out of your comfort zone.
yeah.
A lot of times know-it-alls, and I was just talking to a friend yesterday who's a senior leader at Amazon, And he said it's interesting that you see some of these senior leaders, and they feel like they've made it, and they don't want to be challenged, and they don't want to try to do things differently because they don't want to, made to be looked bad. If something goes wrong, or they don't have all the answers, and they feel like, I've already made it, so this is the way it's going to be. Where I think learn it all leaders look at it like, okay, I want you to challenge me, and I'm going to have the courage to try something. And if I fail, hey, so what? It's not the end of the day. We could learn from it and get better. When it comes to integrity, at the end of the day, it's just do what you say you're going to do. Don't overpromise and underproduce. And then obviously, don't do anything that's going to put your team in a compromising position. I think is super important. And then the final one is accountability.
That was the one.
And that,
But I've forgotten.
Right. And the accountability piece is, I used to be a baseball player, and I've had some great coaches and I've had some poor coaches. And one coach, I vividly remember when things weren't going well, he pushed it off on his team. Like, this guy struck out, this guy didn't pitch a good game. But if things were going well, he took all the credit. That doesn't make you feel good as a team. So I think great leaders need to take accountability and have their people's backs. If something goes wrong, you need to say, hey, we're going to fix this, and this one's on me since I'm the leader.
Right. Okay. So is it always on me because I'm the leader, or can it be on somebody else and I'm simply helping them to solve a problem or an issue?
Well, I'm curious to see what you think about this. But for me, I think it's always on the leader. Now, and not necessarily that I have to go in, roll up my sleeves and do the work, but I need to make sure that my people have the time, resources, and tools to do the work. And also I need to realize, so for example, we spent a couple $100,000 on a new LMS system, and I wasn't leading the project, but I was obviously part of it. But 6 months into it, or maybe even 9 months into it, I realized that this just wasn't going to work. And so we ended up pulling the plug on it, even with sunken costs, the sunken costs on it. And I just kind of stepped up and said, hey, look, we should have made a better decision. And quite frankly, I had the wrong person leading the project, and that person ended up getting terminated, partially because of that. But I think it's on the leader to take ownership of it. What do you think?
The way you describe it there, I agree with you. But I've been trying to understand to what extent I can say to my team, look, you got this wrong. What can we do to solve it? And to what extent I should help, and to what extent I should just say, no, okay, now go away and come back in a week's time when you solve the problem.
Well, I think it depends on what the problem is. I mean, there's certain levels of things that you can't delegate or shouldn't delegate if it's in your expertise. But I think great leaders are also great coaches. And, you don't jump in and just give them the answers to questions. If you want people to learn and develop, you got to have, it's hard, especially for new managers, you got to have the patience to ask open-ended questions and really probe them into coming up with the answers themselves. But by no means should you not be very direct and not say, this isn't going well. This is not working. I mean, that's fine. I mean, to especially behind closed doors with your team. I'm just saying, out in front of everybody else, you got to take ownership of it. But, it's like, hey, this isn't working. Let's talk through what we could have done differently and share with me what you think we could do next time, and get them to extract that information from them, because that will help them learn and grow. Yeah,
I like what we could have done differently, which means going through the whole process and seeing kind of where it went wrong. And I mean, one thing I struggle with all the time is, I think it's a know-it-all issue, is I've done a lot of stuff over the last 25 years online. I've done all the algorithms. I've built platforms. I built CaliQ Pro. I've published a podcast. I kind of think, well, I know how to do this, and I'm very tempted to give them my system. Is that always a mistake, or can it help?
I don't think it's always a mistake, and I think it's a really a good benchmark to start with, or a foundation to start with. I think what you need to be able to do is to be able to allow people to challenge your assumptions, and say, hey, give me some pushback. If you think there's better ways to do this, let me know. I also think which is pretty cool, is you could use ChatGPT to challenge your assumptions as well.
Yes.
Quick little story. I redid our comp plans for our sales team. And instead of, running it by a, CRO somewhere, I just put it in ChatGPT and I said, be a senior chief revenue officer and challenge me by asking me 3 questions, one at a time, about this comp plan on how we can make it better. Long story short, they simplified it. They made it more focused on the attitudes and behaviors I wanted our team to do, and it was brilliant. But if I was a know-it-all and thought I had all the answers, then I would just probably keep it the same.
Now, kind of looking at this, you're saying, well, we've got to be continually learning, all of us in the team. So myself, the management level below me, and the level below them. How do you manage to balance that continuous learning and decisive action, actually doing things, actually moving things forwards in big steps?
That's a great question, because one of the things I always want to clarify is when I say learn it all leader, it doesn't mean that all you do is just learn all the time, right? There's a guy came on my show, David Katz was awesome. And he had a line and he said that learning without doing is treason. So you need to find ways to put the learning into action to execute, because at the end of the day, if you're not getting results, you're either going to go out of business or you might lose your job. So I think it's a combination of, like, if you're reading a book, how are you going to apply this to the work you're doing? If you make mistakes, how are you going to reverse this and execute and take care of your customers? So it's important to have a learning mentality. It's also important as a business leader and an individual contributor to know that you have to get results and execute.
Yeah, and sometimes, people on the team find it difficult to execute, to actually do the thing, because once you do it, you've committed yourself to whatever it is you decided. And that's kind of scary. That takes courage. Once again, courage keeps coming back. And in fact, the team motto is smart, courageous, and fun. If you want to work at CaliQ, smart, courageous, and fun, and you can get on the bus. And something happened to me the other day in a team meet where we have an all-hands meeting, and everybody tells everybody else what they're doing, the problems they've been having, the challenges they've overcome. And I used to take notes and make a comment on absolutely everybody. And then a few weeks ago, I realized that I didn't have comments to make about a lot of the people because I don't really know what they do anymore. I figure that's a good sign.
Yeah, I think it's a good sign. I don't think that you should be the CEO who sits in a 50th floor office and not be involved at all. I think that's not the way to go about it. I think you need to be accessible to your team and a resource when they need your help. But I think similar to you, I don't even pay attention to the day-to-day operations of what we have going on anymore. I don't even know what classes we're running on a regular basis. I know from a macro level what's popular, who our top customers are, and I'm always there to give advice or help. But I feel like my life's become better in being able to really focus more on big picture goals when I'm not deep into the weeds.
Right.
And my team loves it. And my team loves it, by the way.
Yeah, no, I'm not there yet. And I'm sure my team will watch this and think, I can't wait for Jason to get to that stage, which is delightful. And the question is, with business growth, I find my attitude, I think it's closer to learn it all than know it all. But it initially, 4 years ago, when I started building the team, was very much know it all. And what I can see is that growth is encouraged by a learn it all approach. Is that fair to say? I would imagine yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you mean by, do you mean company growth or individual team members growth?
Well, I was actually talking about company growth, but you can go for both if you want.
Yeah, well, absolutely. If your company doesn't grow, it's going to die. If you stay stagnant, you're going to get leapfrogged by somebody else. In our industry, of course, there's a lot of things coming around AI and coaching and everything. So in the learning world, we always need to figure out how to stay ahead of the curve in one way or the other. So we need to grow. And again, it comes back to that word courage. You got to have the courage to try and do things differently. And when it comes to individuals, it's funny. I have conversations with leaders who still say, well, what if we invest in people and they go through your classes and they end up leaving? I mean, there's that old saying, right? Like, what happens if we invest in them and they leave? And you could also say, what happens if you don't and they stay, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
brilliant.
I think, again, great organizations, I like to call them learning organizations, give people the opportunity for growth. Doesn't always have to be formal training. It could be peer mentorship. It can be taking on projects that are outside of their core strengths and giving them opportunities to learn and grow is critical. And I found over the years, people stay a lot longer and are more committed to your company's mission and purpose.
Absolutely brilliant, which is a brilliant way to end the conversation because your business is growing, everybody's learning, everybody's happy, everybody's staying on the bus. That's what we want at Calicube, and I think that's what we all want with our companies. Thank you so much, Damon. That was absolutely brilliant. You get the outro song. A quick goodbye to end the show. Thank you, Damon.
Thank you. It was great.
Brilliant.
Your corporate and personal brands are what Google and AI say they are. We can give you back control. Calicube.